G'day, you're back in the Gunners Club. You're here with Gunner and with Dixie. G'day, culture vultures. I have to announce, I have to apologise, and I have to denounce the fiasco that was the Paris Olympics.
Well, you're not French, so I don't really see why you have to.
Well, see, I was kind of looking forward to it. When they were actually rebuilding the Notre Dame, I thought this is a great declaration of empire. Okay, now let me tell you how I saw this going. Breakdancing, it's a bit of a misfit. It has its place. It has its place in the extreme games, the X Games, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does. It has a form, it has a shape, though it's getting increasingly codified, okay? I myself was a breakdancer, right? We're going to put down the link in the description, or that'll actually show me dancing, so you'll see where I was, what I did.
Yeah, a few moons ago.
Now, just like Rachel Gunn, I had everything going against me that she did. I had a taller Western body.
Yeah, bit of weight,
and age. We were both in our 30s, right?
Sure.
We were competed, so they were against. But this is the emissary we sent. Now, let me take you back a few moons, right? When Russia wanted to discourse under Peter the Great in 1703, he founded St. Petersburg, and then in 1712 declared it was the capital of Russia. He started bringing Western arts.
Ballet, I think.
Pardon me?
Ballet, I think.
Ballet, especially under Catherine the Great, 1738. He founded the Imperial Ballet School, but it was following his trend of making Russia Western-facing. You know what language he wanted to speak to the West in? It was French. So what do the French bring us when it's their time to be on the world stage? Breakdancing. Now, look, Australia's done the same thing. When we had a Commonwealth Games held in Brisbane, we had Australian rules football as a demonstration sport. The host gets to choose a sport. It's like they choose their medal. Where do they have the advantage? Mm-hmm. So they saw our ethnic makeup, increasingly Muslim, increasingly African. There's a gold medal there, right? But that's not how I see it. I see that they decided to actually dumb down our culture, okay? To speak to us in breakdance instead of in ballet is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind when they go boo, 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 except the DJ goes whoa, 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 in the middle of it. I think that's what we got. So breakdancing has a form, it has a place, but it's increasingly codified. Now, our emissary for the day, Rachel Gunn, Raygun, refused to actually dress the part, okay?
Well, I mean, she was dressed in uniform.
And why do you reckon?
To show acknowledgement to...
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
I think she wanted to actually say, I'm a PhD Olympian.
Okay.
It was personal branding. I know at the end of her performance, when people started to get a bit of the hump after her performance representing Australia, she said any attack on her was essentially attack on the breakdancing community and on women in general, and that she'll be in a bit of a blackout, a media blackout, because she'll be having a already scheduled break,
mm-hmm.
and then she goes on the Logies, so that she's getting herself ready for the next...
Well, look, I know that professors and dignitaries and clergy, they do take a well-deserved sabbatical. Do you not need a sabbatical after doing the worm on stage at the Olympics?
Look, a great breakdancer can take on an animal form. I've talked to Olympic gymnasts from Romania who have told me, increasingly so, anything a floor gymnast can do, a breakdancer can do too, except not so much planges, which is a form where you just put your hands on the floor and your body's parallel, and you don't actually have any anchor. You're free floating. They don't have the static pressing strength. That's what breakdancers are telling me. But if they want to move on the floor like a scorpion, they will move like a scorpion with locked-limbed and defying gravity. If you're going to pretend to be a kangaroo, you better be able to leap a fence, okay? It's not this little bopping forwards and back. That won't do it. That's not called clowning. That's not called responding. It's not being fluid when you need to be fluid. It's or being disjointed when you need to be disjointed. Playing with gravity by being heavier than light. Playing with timing and responding to what the person has done before you.
Now, even more so than that, I would argue that dance is in the name. Talk to me about what breakdance means. What's the break? What's break?
Well, Cool J Herc used to, it was this 6'6" guy who used to spin the records at block parties. Somebody couldn't pay their rent. People would go to a housing commission or a project and have a Saturday night party, put $5-10 in the hat. Then the house that was offering their toilet would collect rent for the month so they could get by. And he noticed that there was a polyrhythm section in most jazz.
Okay, so
right?
poly just means many.
Many.
Yep.
Okay, and they call that the beat, and he'd actually extend it by dropping the needle on the same record again, so he'd have a double turntable. It had exhausted, then he'd actually drop it on the next record, and he'd say, "B-boys, B-girls, get down on the break beat." So that's how b-boying started.
So what are they meant to do with that call to arms? How do they get down on the break beat?
It was a time to do something frenetic, and because there was so much rhythm, it was really possible just to catch any rhythm when you were doing it. You didn't have to be that good, and that's why breaking is a folk art. It's like it should be accessible. It's there for you. But see, when I used to dance, the first round would be the old schoolers would actually make you dance to the old standards like Apache. It's like, well, you better recognize the music because this is where it began. And if you're missing the beat, the DJ would take back the record and go, "Whoa, no," and the beat would play again. "No, you're still not listening. I'm in charge." And by the second time, you'd realize he's not scratching in the word fresh. He's actually saying, "What are you dancing to? You're supposed to dance to me." Right? So instead, we're getting 3 1-minute rounds on a sort of podium, which makes it harder. Are you dancing for the audience, or are you dancing for the judge, or are you dancing against your opponent? Now, here's where it became a bit weird. Yawning at your opponent who's clearly beating you, it's a bit ridiculous. It's a bit like a wrestler calling his opponent an old man. Even if you win, what have you done? You've beaten an old man.
You've lowered your win, haven't you?
You have. And like I've been to ballet schools that have actually written so much can be done with poise, style, and a trained form, that with just a look in the eye that is so powerful. And what do we get instead? A cocky's tongue poking out at us, right?
Now, I want to understand, do you think that performance, that it was pre-choreographed, or was it actually reacting to the music?
No, there was no reacting to the music. The whole idea of musicality means you're actually catching the rhythm and hitting the beat, accentuating it at least occasionally. That gives you style and your level, and it gives you being a little bit heavy when you actually hit the beat. I didn't see any of it. Traditionally, this is the thing, what is a breakdancer? And Rachel Gunn telling us all that she's a great exponent because she has a PhD in the gender dynamics of the sport. I mean, good heavens, everything's packaged, everything's a show. So going back when So You Think You Can Dance came out, everyone in Australia I'd had trained alongside them. And all of them said, I'm untrained. I'd seen them...
Well, that's your entry ticket, isn't it?
I'd seen them 3-4 times a week. And you know what? These guys had diplomas of ballet. They could do a perfect pirouette. They could stand on point. At least some of them could. Some of them had a circus arts degree and could tumble like you wouldn't believe. But it's the whole thing. The jealously guarded ballerina whose family don't want her exploited because she's going to consolidate a great relationship by a perfect marriage, and a street dancer who is spurned and unloved. Instead, you get an academic who's getting a grant to coach her, insisting on wearing the Olympic outfit, which looked completely out of place compared to what others were dancing. Which was
Where would you rate Australia's representative, female representative, I have to say, in terms of skill? Would you say that she was an advanced dancer?
I would say she was novice to intermediate, low intermediate.
So how many years would you expect a person who trains 4 days a week to reach that sort of standard?
1.5 years. And that's because I've seen her dance better before. There's something to be said to that. I know what my strengths and my weaknesses are. I'm not going to try and cover the broad spectrum. But in 3 minutes, it's like a boxer in a 3-minute round. Believe me, any other boxer will know the weaknesses within the first round.
I know what you're saying, because when I train, my trainer will always watch me at the start after the skipping, doing a shadow box round for 3 minutes, and I pick up any single perceivable fault in balance or in my attack or even in my escape. I don't have a critical eye, But what I saw, that seemed to be a bit of a pantomime of what I would expect someone from outside of Australia to reflect as being an Australian interpretation of our, zoology.
Well, just like a camel herder would know by the footprints in the sand exactly whose camel was who. You should be able to pick,
And if there was a lame one,
if someone's got the hump, you should be able to pick straight away who the dancer is by their silhouette. And I don't mean doing hokey moves like a kangaroo on its tail, right? So for instance, during the Melbourne Open, we could force danced in fairy penguin outfits. You couldn't see faces. It was really an enormously embossed outfit. As soon as they got out on Top Rock, now Top Rock is the strut, okay? It's where it's kind of like jazz ballet dancers can get the strut. A lot of the foot shuffling and stuff they get straight away, right? I could tell every one of the dancers of the cruise within seconds. Mm-hmm. It was that easy because it was that signature. Do I think Rachel Gunn had, if she was doing a silhouette, and I don't mean voguing, because in the grammar of breakdance, you funky up your tops, your freezes, your drops, your transitions, your power moves, the deadly drops, which are called suicides, where you actually just fall without any apparent concern for safety. You look as if, how could you get up after that? Mm-hmm. Voguing is not one of them. In this case it was. I don't know why. Now, let me tell you, who am I to judge someone else as a breakdancer, okay? My link will be there. You can judge it for yourself. It's something I needed. Okay, it's a folk art, which means it should belong to the people. When I left the Air Force, I was quite locked up in myself. I remember when I was marching from place to place on an air base and marching alongside an old parade ground, and I saw growing in the cracks some wild flowers, and I broke step and I caught myself. I just about did a Basil Fawlty and went, "How dare you grow merrily in the cracks of the parade ground?" So when I transitioned to a civilian and I counted the dance floor, I took it as a place almost like this is a ring. When you're in here, it's a dangerous place to be, yes. Okay? And it deserves respect. It took me a long time to get told you couldn't really do something that was wrong, but it would take time to find a form, okay? And that's what you're searching for. And the also thing is, once you wind up a full head of steam, you get so much momentum going, don't waste it. Or if you want to, then do an extraordinary reversal just to show that you can.
What concerns me is that Australia came fourth in the world in the medal tally, and all we're talking about is this performance.
See, that's the thing I can't defend. And what is the Olympic ideal that we're actually trying to do? Is it we're trying to show as a nation, or we're trying to show on behalf of humanity? Is there such thing as an Olympic ideal? What does it actually mean?
Well, it's been reduced to, higher, stronger, faster.
No, it's been reduced to the debacle of the blasphemy of the Last Supper, the costume malfunction with the lone descending testicle to introduce the agenda of gender fluidity, the transsexual battering of women in the boxing ring by men. But let me say this about sometimes an introduced sport that doesn't belong really works. I am thankful for beach volleyball. Every 4 years, I've thanked my lucky stars. If I had a bucket and spade, I would be there. Thanks so much for your time.
If you like what we do, like, subscribe, go back. There's sure to be an adventure there that you'll enjoy. We'll see you again.
See you.